What's up YouTube? Welcome back to the channel for Webflow Pros. In today's video, I'm going to be building this lander that we designed last week in Webflow. And I'll be sharing my thought process along the way and sharing my strategies for making it mobile responsive. So let's go ahead and just dive right in. All right, let's go ahead and get started building this out. So I'll drag a div onto the page and give it the class of page wrapper. And we basically want to set the width to 100%. Overflow to hidden and position relative. That'll disable horizontal scrolling. Inside that div, we'll drag in another one and we'll call this hero. Now the hero section of our site, we want to be 100% the height of the screen unless the content height is greater than the actual height of the browser. Then we want to enable scrolling. So for that to happen, we'll set a minimum height of 100 VH, and inside that hero, I'm going to drag in another div, and this is going to be called our section, and I'll reuse this class in the nav as well. Basically, we want any content inside the section to go almost 100% the width of the browser, except for this space of this sidebar here. We don't want this content going underneath the sidebar. So we're going to get the width of that bar. I'm using the wizardry technique. I'll leave this video in the description. So if you hit the tutorial or documentation tab, you can learn more. We're just going to go ahead and convert that, and we'll use right padding inside the section. We're going to use flexbox, and we'll stretch, justify left, allow wrap, and then I'm going to drop a combo class of is hero. And then on this one, I'm actually going to calculate the height of this top bar as well, which I believe is 100 pixels. And I'm going to use that as top padding inside this section here. And I'm also going to change the flex direction to vertical instead. And then I'll do no wrap and align to the top. And basically what I'm going to do here is, usually I would have all this grouped together in one div called hero left, have all this grouped together in a div called hero right, and on mobile I'd stack this under that. Only problem is, if you look at our current mobile design, we want the hero photo to appear before all of the cards. So the way that we're going to have to do that is actually have one div called hero top and another div underneath that called hero bottom. And then the hero top will have its own left and right for the text and the visual. And then this hero bottom will be able to hold this content and the links. And this image will be up here, and we'll use negative margin to push it down and over into the lower section. So that's how we can basically set this up. So let's go ahead and create our hero top. It's going to go inside the section, and we'll give it that class of hero top. And then inside of that, let's drag in another div, and this one is going to be my hero top left. And then I need to figure out the padding of it. So if I click on this and hover, it's 99 pixels. So I can just calculate that. Is going on all sides right here. And then inside of this is where we're actually going to have our text. So this would be my heading right here. And I can just copy that current heading. And then I need a link block for my button. And then this can just have the class of button. And then inside of that, I'm going to drag another div for my button contain. And then inside of that button contain, it's going to have two pieces. It's going to have my button top, and that's going to basically have this color of yellow. It'll have a border of 1 pixel, and it can have a bit of padding on all sides, using EMs for now. And then I'm going to drag in some paragraph text. From the button top, we're going to actually do text align center in bold, and then we'll copy this text that says pick a plan, paste that in right there. The button top will have a sibling, so we need another div right under button top. It's going to be called button bottom. Let's see, let's name this button top, and then we'll call this one button bottom. And then this one is going to have the same border, but I actually want to position it absolute to its parent, which its parent is going to be this contain, so it needs to be relative. And then I'll give this a z-index of 1, and I'll give the button top position relative z-index of 2, so it sits on top. And then basically I want to offset this button bottom. I believe we are going to offset it by 10 pixels, so I'll just plug that in here. And then I'll add a transform and then we'll move it over negative and push it down, and that basically does gives it that sort of offset. So then we need to figure out our paddings, which is 79 and 29. So we can do 79, and that's for our left and right here, would be for the top and bottom. And then one thing you'll notice is I changed the padding on here. The button bottom is growing with this one there. We also want the button bottom to align basically with this text right here. So I'm going to copy that same offset that I used for it, and I'm going to add that value as padding to the left and to the bottom of the link, and that way it aligns right there. And let's also get the margin here. So that is 49 pixels. Top margin goes on the button right there. And then this top left is actually 3 columns. And each column, since it's on a 5-column grid, is worth 20%. So this would be a width of 60% here. And then we're going to add a border to this side. And then we'll also add a bottom border as well. And then right next to this hero top left, we'll drag in another div. And this is going to be hero top right. And then that can go underneath. And then this hero top, the parent, will apply flex. And then this top right would be a 40% width. It can also be a darker background color. And then we need the image inside of it. And we'll just give this a class of hero image. And we'll set no max width. We'll set the width in EMs, something like this. And then we'll apply some negative margin to basically pull it over and also pull it down a little bit. And then let's add some top padding. And that's looking pretty good. So we have our basic hero top here. Let's go ahead and drag another div underneath it for the hero bottom. And let's give that the class. And then inside of there, we'll have another div for my hero content. And then that can have a little bit of padding inside of it. And it's actually going to have a heading that is an H2. And it'll be this one here. And then maybe some paragraph text can go right here. And we can copy all this paragraph text there. And we can basically give it that class of P2, the smaller paragraph. And we can even give our heading, our H2s, all H2s, bit of bottom margin. And the content is 1 column, so that's 20%. And then we can drag a div inside of it. Actually, this would be a link block because it's clickable. This would be called hero. We can call it content circle. And then the width and height on this, 77 pixels. And let's give it a background color, 50% radius to round it off. Perfect 1 pixel border on all sides, and then flex. And then we'll drop in an arrow inside. And this could be something like hero content arrow. And then it could be maybe 40% the width of its parent. And let's add some bottom margin. A good bit of bottom margin to this. And I may reduce the padding just ever so slightly. Something like that. And maybe we add a right border. And then we can duplicate this. We want them to stack side by side. So we'll apply flex to the parent, like so. And then let's duplicate it one more time. Let's change out the content. Okay, and I may add a bit more margin right here to the bottom, and then add combos. And let's drag another div next to the hero content that will be hero links. And then this can have the darker color. And then the width on this is 40% also. And then we want this image to stack on top everything. So it needs the parent needs a higher Z index. And then inside the hero links, we're going to drag a link block. And this can be a hero button. And it's going to be 50% the width of its parent. Since its parent is 2 columns, that would make it a 4 column. And then we can add a little bit of padding. And we can give it maybe a background color. And then we want to drag in maybe this paragraph text. Can go inside of it. And let's grab the hero links parent and do flex, horizontal and align to the bottom. And then with this button selected, it can be center align, bold. Let's copy the text. And let's duplicate this one. And let's reduce the padding. Looks like we have about 32. And let's give this one a combo class, so that way we can change the background color and we can also add a border to this side of it. And then let's, on the main class, let's add a border to the top of both of them. Whenever we're basically dragging in and out, we want this content to always be as tall as the browser height. We want the bottom content to stay this height, but the top content, the top part is the part we want to allow to grow up and down. So if that's going to happen, we need to flex box, basically center align this text inside this box. And then we need to also flex box the image to basically anchor this image to the bottom corner right there. And then we basically, the section isn't tall enough, so we want it to be as tall as the parent. So we'll apply flexbox on the parent to stretch out the height. And now the section's tall enough, but the content inside isn't growing. So what we can do is basically give this content a height of 100% of the available space. And since its parent has flexbox that's stretching, we don't want to wrap it. That's basically just going to allow this content to stay the same height, this content to increase in height when possible. And then that is basically looking good. That's doing what we want it to do there. All right, next up, we really just need to build out the nav. On desktop, we're going to have this full nav menu, and on mobile, our full nav menu is also going to include the top links, social links, and the search icon. So what we don't want to do is have a separate desktop and mobile navigation. That could lead to all kinds of issues with accessibility, SEO, even page load times, or maintaining these links later on. So what we need to do is make sure that all of our nav links, all of our social links are grouped together in one div, even on desktop. And we can pull elements out inside of that div to be the full nav menu on a desktop, and then we'll grab the entire element and make that the nav menu on mobile. So let's go ahead and start building this out. Basically, what I'm going to do is drag another div inside of our page wrapper, and let's give this a class of section. Let's add a combo class of isNav, and let's go ahead and start giving this maybe a background color of our main background color. Let's go ahead and give it a height of our navbar height, which is right here. And let's go ahead and let's tag it with the tag of nav. And let's tag the hero that we created with the tag of header. And then let's go ahead and drag in a div block. And actually, we'll convert that to a link block inside of our basically nav. And then we're going to give this the class of logo, and it's one column, so it's 20% width. And then inside of that, we're going to have the logo image. So that would be this one here. And we can just drag that right in and give this the class logo image. Let's go ahead and figure out the width on that image, which is right here. And let's go ahead and convert that to EMs. And we'll go ahead and paste that in here. And then we need to make sure that the parent has flexbox applied to center the logo, and it has that 1 pixel border we need over here on the side. And then next to that, we'll basically go ahead and drag in a menu, and that can be the remaining space, so 80% width. And let's give the entire nav a bottom border of 1 pixel. So we kind of have that aligned. And then in the menu, we're going to have 3 different types of menus. We have the side menu here, we have the top menu, and then we have this full menu here. So I'm going to go ahead and drag in some divs. And inside this menu, we'll create the first one called top. And the top is going to be 100% width and 100% height of its parent. And it had 80 pixels padding in it on both the left and right side. So we can go ahead and fill that in. And then we basically want some nav links. So these would be link blocks. This would be called top underscore link. And then we basically want some paragraph text that'll go inside here. And the top link is going to be 100% the height of its parent. And then we're going to apply flexbox to center the link up inside. And we can basically, we can apply flex to this top itself. That way this is only as wide as the link text. And then we can duplicate it to make a couple of these. And let's go ahead and change out the text. All right, and let's look at the gap between these. It looks like we got 45 pixels. So we'll plug that in and we'll add that as padding inside this side right here. And then let's go ahead and drag in our social, actually our search icon. So this is search. We're going to add margin auto here to anchor it to the opposite side. We're going to drag in the search icon. So this will be search icon. And we need to figure out the width on that as well. So we'll just copy that there and convert it over. And let's go ahead and plug that in to the width right here. And with the search link selected, let's give it a height of 100% of its parent height and flex to center. And that's looking pretty good. Then we are going to drag, we have our top nav. Let's go ahead and do our side nav. So that's going to go inside of menu. And then we're just going to call this side. And this is going to be actually position fixed over here to the side here. And the height is going to be 100 VH. And then the width of this one was 160. So let's plug that in and set that for the width. And then this we'll want a side border here. And then let's go ahead and add some top padding. That's going to be that 100 pixel. So that way it matches the height of the top nav. And then we can apply flex and let's just create the content inside here. So this would be, since it's in the side nav, it would be our sidebar. And then for this, we're going to get the width and height of it. Height's right here, width is 13 pixels. Let's go ahead and copy that over right there. And then let's get the width right here. And let's go ahead and apply that border on all sides. And then inside of that sidebar, we need the side. We'll call this bar fill. And then that's going to have the green background color. And for now, we'll make it 100% the width of its parent, maybe 50% height. And we'll give it that bottom border of 1 pixel. And then let's add our social as well. So these would be link blocks. And we'll just give this the class of social. And we basically want to figure out the width and height right here. And we'll go ahead and plug that in. And then let's do that here and here. And then it's perfect circle. So radius would be 50%. Border would be 1 pixel. And we'll apply flex for the icons. And then we'll just go ahead and drag an icon inside it. Let's give it a class of social, social icon. And let's make a couple of these. So we'll just select it and paste it. And let's change out the images. And then let's go ahead and set a width and a height on these. Just so we can see what we're working with here. Something like that, trying to make them all look kind of consistent. And then let's figure out our space between icons, 27 pixels. So we'll add that is top margin. That way it stays centered within our flex box. And then we'll add some bottom margin, little extra space here, just to create some separation between those. And then we also need our full menu in here. So that's going to go inside the menu. We're just going to call this one full. And then this one is actually going to be position absolute. Cover the entire width and height of its parent. Width is 100%, height is 100 VH. And then inside of that full, we're going to drag in the actual background color. So this would be full underscore contain. And basically this contain is going to have the background color of blue, and it can be 100% width and height of its parent. We don't want it to go underneath this nav, so we need to get the width of this side nav and plug that in here. And we'll actually add that as padding inside the full to basically make it not go that full width. The nav itself needs a z-index. So the nav will actually be position fixed to the entire top and z-index of maybe 1,000. And then the full right here can be a z-index of -1. So that way we can still see these nav links and logo underneath it. One thing you did notice is the bottom border of our nav though got covered by this. So we may have had to create that as an element instead of as a border. So what we can do is just drag a div that's going to go inside the nav. We'll just call it nav line, nav underscore line. Width would be 100% of its parent. Height would be 1 pixel. Position would be absolute to the bottom. And then we would give it a background color of our main color. And let's just make sure that height's 1 pixel. And that's looking pretty good there. That solves that part. I'm also going to get that 100 pixel padding here and add that as top padding inside this full contain. So that way it centers it up. We can use flexbox like this, stack it like that. And then let's go ahead and drag a link block in here. And it's just going to be called full underscore link. And let's figure out the font size of those links. Looks like we're dealing with about 76 pixels. So let's go ahead and plug that in and set that font size here. Set our font family here. And let's copy some paragraph text and drop it in. And let's just change out the text. All right, and we also need our hamburger icon. So I'm going to go ahead and set the full to display none for now. And that's going to go outside of the menu, but inside of the nav. And that should actually be a link block because it's clickable. And this is going to just be called icon. And we basically want to position it absolute to the entire nav height. It's going to be the width of this column here. So if we just plug in that width right there and set that here, and then we can apply flexbox. And then we want basically the Lottie file to be inside the icon. Give it the class of icon Lottie, and maybe the width would be something like 45%. And then let's go ahead and set up a quick interaction. It'll be on click or tap. It'll only happen on desktop. This is our desktop animation. Let's call it desktop nav open. And we basically want to get the, let's see, where's our full? Right here. Hide show. This will be initial state, display none. And then we'll take the full and set its hide show here to display block. We'll also move it, and that would move it up 100%, right like that. And then we'd move it back down into view. So 0%. And then we'd grab the Lottie, and the initial state on that would be kind of 0. And then right here, we'd bring the Lottie to 99%. And then we can also add an easing here. So something that looks like that looks good. And then let's go ahead and duplicate this one and call it nav close. For desktop, delete our initial states. Move this hide show to after and return it to display none. Move this Lottie back to 0% and move this one back to -100%. And then if we save and preview, we can open and close, and that's looking great there. So we have basically our desktop set up. Let's also just go ahead and add a gradient in. So that's going to be inside the hero, and or actually it could be inside the wrapper even. And we'll just call this gradient, and we'll give it a position of absolute to the top corner. Let's see the width and height on this one. We can just basically copy that over, and then we want to basically fill it with a gradient. It could be a linear gradient, and then it would be from the yellow to maybe the green over here. And then we want to round it out, so 50% radius. And then we want to blur it out, so the blur was 32 pixels. So we can just convert that over. Let's see, 32. And let's go ahead and add a filter, blur, and blur it out like that. I may increase it just a little bit more, but not too much. Something around there looks kind of good. And then I'll give this a z-index of 1, and I'll give it negative margin to push it over into the corner and up a little bit like that. And then I'll give the hero section position relative z-index of 2, so it's on top. So next up, we really just need to make this mobile responsive. So it's responding pretty well on desktop right now. Whenever we switch over to the tablet view, this is where we get to switch the body font size to pixels. And that's going to basically make everything lock into a certain size and stop scaling. So at this point, I really don't think we have space for a side nav anymore. And in fact, we can probably go ahead and just convert our entire nav to more of our mobile design here. So what we can go ahead and do is, right now our side nav, let's see, had a position of fixed. Set to a position relative instead, and we'll set no height on it, so the height will just be auto based on the content inside. The width can be auto for now as well. And the, let's see, the full nav right here, we're going to set no height on it. Width can be 100% is fine. Position can be relative. So everything that was fixed before, we're just kind of stacking this, changing it all back to relative. And then that can be good for that part. I think the next thing I'll do is grab sort of this section, and I can head over to the main section class, or even just remove this class and zero out this side padding, and then I can add the nav back on. So that kind of zeroed both of them out there. The logo right here, let's see what's going on with that one. It needs to be 100% the height of its parent. Let's see, we never did define a height on this, so that could be the issue, and maybe I do that on desktop because it's kind of getting way too tall. Yep, so that basically made it stick. That's perfect. So here, maybe increase the width of it to 2 columns instead of just 1. And then this icon here, we can leave it based on the size of the content inside of it. I believe we defined a width on it here that was equal to, maybe we set the width of this equal to 1 column, so 20%. And this is fine there. Let's just see how that's scaling. One thing I may do is set a pixel size. Could be a little bit larger, maybe 60 pixels. And then we can do by 60 pixels and apply flex. That way it just stays centered. And that's looking pretty good for that part. Then with everything going on here, I think we just really need to start stacking things. So we have the top. I'll kind of hide the nav right now. We have this hero top left. Let's just go ahead and make that 100% of the available space, which means this needs to allow the content to wrap. So that way when we have this hero top right, we can do 100% of the available space as well. For the image, we're actually going to change its width to 100%. And then we're going to remove the margins that we're kind of offsetting it. And then we're just going to add some padding on all sides of this container. And then here, I think what we want to do, we can go ahead, let's see, these links are, right now they're kind of being hanging over the edge here. So I think what I can do is grab the menu and set that to display none. And let's go ahead and grab this hero content, and we'll do 100 divided by 3. So they're each 3 columns, which means their parent, hero bottom, needs to allow us to wrap onto a new line. And then this right here, these hero buttons can still be 50% as long as their parent is 100%. So we're kind of getting this interesting layout there. And then I'd probably add to each one of these content blocks a 1 pixel top, and that's looking pretty good. And then when this drags out, I mean, this is getting a little too wide, so we probably want a max width on this image, maybe like 500 pixels or something, and center it up. That way, you know, it doesn't get too large. Let me see. Maybe we'll do 600 pixels. I may add a bit more top and bottom padding in here. And then we probably want the margins on the sides to be the same across the board. So maybe it could be something like, I don't know, maybe 8 viewport width. And then we'll do the same for this image, just so we have nice equal margins there. And then we'll leave the rest of the stuff just stacking like that for now. So now we need to change up kind of our menu. So we have this, let's just open up our menu and get that styled first and foremost. So we're going to set this to display block. We're going to give it a background color so that way we can actually see it. It'll be this dark gray for now. We're going to give it a width of 100% and a height of 100 VH. And we're going to position it absolute to the entire parent and give it a -1 z-index so it's behind the nav. And then we need to apply flexbox to just stack everything underneath each other and center it all up. I'll set this sidebar to display none. And then I'll remove this top padding here, and I'll also remove this side border, and I'll stack these horizontally now, and maybe we add some side margin instead, and then we can remove some of that top margin. And then let's see what's going on here. We have a height of 100%. Let's just set the height to auto for this content. And we want these links to stack one underneath each other. So we're going to change the flex direction like this. And we want this search link right here. I'm just going to set this side margin to 0. We want the search link to be pretty much the first thing. So I think what we can do is switch the flex order to first. That way it just stacks on top the other stuff. And this search box here, we just want to make sure we have everything being centered up, which means we need to remove the side padding to keep things nice and centered. And then I believe we decided to go with the larger font size and larger style here. So we'll go with the headline style and just increase the font size a little bit, something like that. And then the search icon, honestly, I can increase the font size of it, kind of, and then maybe even add a little bit of bottom margin. Doesn't have to be much. And then the social, or this side, I guess, could have a little bit of padding, top and bottom. Then this full container here would be background color of transparent. The width is 100%, but we got to remove the side padding there. And then we can remove this padding here. And then these are more of kind of going to be a different style. So they can be our default font style here. And then we can reduce the font size back to our paragraph size. And then maybe we stack these, which means that parent needs to be display block. So these can be inline block. And we can do text to line center. And then we can basically add a little bit of margin on all sides of them, kind of like that. And then maybe we set a max width on this, something like that. So that way they kind of stay centered a little. I'm gonna add some top and bottom margin to them too, and then less right here. Just kind of spacing these out like that. All right, that's looking good. And then here I may add a bit more padding to separate those apart, even here, maybe a little bit more. And then on these links, we could add even a tiny bit of padding to keep those separated. And that's looking pretty good. Let's add some bottom padding to this entire nav right there. That way we're keeping this centered aligned within the remaining space. And then that's looking good. And let's check it all the way down. Responsive. Let's see. So here we're gonna have to change some things. So here it seems like in the menu we're pretty good all the way down. So let's go ahead and set this menu. It needs to be Flexbox, or honestly, it could be display block like that, and then we can align it to the top, and that way we can set the overflow to scroll. In the case that maybe some mobile phones aren't quite this tall, it would allow scrolling inside this container for us. So let's go ahead and set that to display none. Let's go ahead and create our mobile animation. So all we're going to do, we have our desktop one right here. All we need to do is create a new one, and this is only going to happen on tablet and below. And we'll just call this mobile nav open. And this time, what we want to do is grab the entire menu because it has all our different links. And then we're going to set its hide show, set initial, display none, hide show here, display block, just like that. And then Lottie over here would go to 99%. And we would add somewhat of an easing to this, like so. And let's go ahead and just duplicate this. And we'll call it mobile nav close. And we'll delete our initial states. We'll bring this hide show to the end, set it to display none, bring the Lottie back to 0, and bring the move back to -100. And now if we preview it, it should open and close perfectly fine for us all the way down. Awesome, and we have that set up. So let's go ahead and work on the rest of our responsiveness here. So these sections are looking good on tablet. And then even here, I think we're still kind of okay. I think one thing I'll do here is actually remove the light gray background color. And I'll remove the bottom border from this. And we should have removed that side border from this, even on the other breakpoint. And then what we can do is make this feel more like one section. So I'll remove that padding a little bit. And that's going to get the photo and the hero text closer together. Kind of like our design. We can do something like this. All we need to do is, well, first of all, we need to make the width of these 100%. And then that's looking good. Honestly, I may just keep it like kind of like that for now. And then over here, we need to make sure, so this is 100%. Hero bottom, we need to, probably should have given that a width of 100%, even here. So that way things start to wrap. Something isn't being allowed to wrap, so we just got to see what's going on. That's not allowing our content to wrap. Our section isn't wrapping, so maybe we give our section a width of 100%, which there, now our paragraph text is allowed to wrap. Let's see, this is getting too large. So here we can actually just convert this to viewport width for the font size, and that will make that heading just scale down up into the point we need it to. That's looking good there. Here, I think this is looking pretty good. Maybe we reduce the font size inside the buttons just a little bit to prevent some of that line wrap, or even just reduce those paddings a little. Let's see. Yeah, and that's looking good there. And then one other thing I may do is set the hero links div on this breakpoint to position fixed to the bottom, and it would be a slightly lower z-index than the nav. And that way it's kind of always there with us while we're scrolling through. And then we just want to make sure that whatever the height is, we give the hero bottom that same padding at the bottom, so that way this kind of aligns there. Perfect. That way that content isn't getting cut off. That's looking good. We're good there. And then here I'm probably just going to honestly remove that line there, and then I'll set the width on this to auto, and then the width on this would be auto as well. And then I would probably just add the I think it was 8 viewport width padding that we created for the other sections. We'll just add that to both sides, which means this icon needs to be relative and auto, because it was absolute there. It's getting a little too large. I may back down the width of this logo a little bit, and also the font size or the width of this icon. There we go. That's all aligning and looking good. And I think we have it pretty much set up to be fully responsive across all of our different breakpoints here. If you've enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button below. And if you'd like to see more advanced tutorials, feel free to check out my Patreon page. I hope to catch you in the next video. Goodbye.